Ryan Flaherty, the Cubs bench coach, Flash, could be the next manager of the Padres. And I want to talk about the future of MLB managers because Tony Vitello, who was the Tennessee Vols coach, a guy I know, just like Flash, I know him too, is now with the San Francisco Giants. Is there something going on right now in baseball that we need to talk about? I think there is. 3 Cubs are finalists for the Silver Slugger Award. I feel like there's one guy that has a really good chance, and then, 2 guys that are fighting for the same one, maybe. And should the Cubs sign Andrew Kittredge? I feel like they should. I'm going to tell you why. All that right on the Cubs baseball channel here, man. So make sure that you guys are a part of what we do. Like, subscribe, share with your friends. Thank you. Love you all for being a part of what we do on a daily basis. And let's talk a little bit of baseball. The World Series is coming. You got the Dodgers. You got the Blue Jays. Who would have thought that this World Series, an international World Series, are you interested in it? Yeah, we'll get into that too. Let's go. What do you say, everybody? Mick Gillespie, Cubs Baseball Channel. Pleasure to talk to you guys on a daily basis about all the happenings in the world of baseball. And I got some swag. I told you we were coming with some swag. We got it now. We gave away a hat. We got more. You want to buy one? All you got to do is email me. I'll sell you one. But you can win one for free. Thanks to AveD. Hit that QR code right there and stay connected with Mick Nation. We're picking NFL. I know you guys wanted the Bears. We got the Bears in there. College football. You guys know I love college football. Got college football in there. Got the World Series. So we're hitting it all at AveD. Make sure that you guys go in there. We give away weekly cash prizes. Obviously, swag. We gave away playoff tickets there. Get in the comments section. Tell me what you think. But it is a pleasure to talk to you guys. And I want to thank you all for the comments. I read them every day. I'm so proud of our audience, this little group that we've built, and I can't thank you enough for being here. All right, let me get into a couple things I wanted to talk about today. The first thing is bench coach Ryan Flaherty linked to the Padres managerial opening. Now, I've known Flash since he came from Vanderbilt and was drafted by the Cubs. And to be honest with you, I haven't talked to him in a long time. But he's one of my all-time favorites. And when I run into him next time, I'm sure I'll say that to him. I think he's a fantastic dude, really smart baseball guy. As a player, he wasn't a star. He had to deal with some injuries, but he was just one of those guys you knew that was going to eventually be in this position, right, to be a manager. And I think he's going to be a really, really good manager when he gets that opportunity. So could be the Padres. Mike Shildt got the job last time, came down to Flash, who was the bench coach, and then Shildt came in, got the job. And now the Padres have the same job opening again. And it looks like Flaherty is the front runner for the job. So GM A.J. Preller, he already knows him when he was a bench coach with the Padres, probably realizes that Flash brings a lot to the table and is looking at this going, hey, we got an opportunity here to bring Flash in. John Heyman's saying that it's his job to lose. So, we'll see. I think that he would do an excellent job as a manager. I've always liked his knowledge of baseball, his understanding of the game. I love those guys that were really smart and were good, but knew why they weren't great. Like, because they saw those other guys that were great, know what it takes to win. And Flaherty as a player was always one of those players who did the things that it took to win. And he had had a really good season with Baltimore, a year they went to the postseason, and just couldn't really kick the injuries. But he's been a great coach. I'd hate to lose him if I was the Cubs, but that's just kind of the way that it goes. You put good people around you, and they could get another job. Now, this leads me to something kind of I guess it is related, right? Tony Vitello is making history right now. He was the head coach of the University of Tennessee. He's a guy I know. He's a guy I think a lot of. As a matter of fact, at Tennessee baseball, I pull for them because of him. You know, I was a fan of his, and that just made me want to see him win. He's super cool, understands the game, was a great recruiter, awesome scout. And you look at the success that they had. Won a World Series, turned Tennessee into a perennial power. Last year had like 4 guys drafted in the first round. And it was Drew Gilbert, from the reports that I read, one of his former players that's on the Giants, that suggested that he may be a guy that they should talk to about managing the team. And they did. And he got the job with 0 pro experience, which makes this unprecedented. Now, I'm going to tell you why this doesn't shock me. The minor leagues have turned into rec ball. What do I mean by that? When I got into this business, doing play-by-play in the minor leagues, the teams wanted to win. Winning was part of developing, right? Like, so you have a team, and you know, like, certain things you're not going to do in the minor leagues just because, you know, you're trying to get guys ready to go to the major leagues. But winning was a part of everything that you wanted your guys to lose. Or, excuse me, to learn, not lose, to learn. And losing wasn't something that you wanted them to do. Like the Cardinals and the Yankees, just certain organizations really strive to win in the minor leagues because when they got to the big leagues, they wanted those guys to get there and be ready to win. And then it was the Astros really started this, where the Astros were like, you know, they had all those draft picks and they built their organization at the number 1 farm system. They didn't care about the success of the play, the play in the minor leagues. And, you know, they didn't care about scouting. I mean, which is, you know, kind of where we are. I don't know why everybody looked at them like, you know, like they were Einstein, but like, so then the minor leagues turned into, hey, we're doing analytics. We are not worried about winning. We don't even care if we play the games in a stadium where people are there. We're on clovers at, you know, spring training fields. And the reason I'm saying this, and I'm relating it to Tony Vitello, is that there's coaching and managerial jobs, and mostly managers in the minor leagues, like, don't get to manage anymore. And it's like that in the major leagues too, and I'm going to get to that, but in the minor leagues even more so, where you're really not allowed to do a whole lot until, you know, I know with the Cubs, you get it in the postseason and they let you do it. They let you manage to win. But throughout the season, it's like the managers are hand-tied as far as winning and losing goes. So when you see guys having success and they don't have a great roster, you realize how good they are at doing other stuff to help the team win. And I can think of a guy right now, Lance Reimold, who was the AA manager, I thought was tremendous at this. Tony Vitello is the ace at winning games, but it was in the collegiate level, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. But in the minor leagues, you don't get to match up. You are limited to how many pitches a guy can throw, who throws. Guys don't throw back-to-back days. The lineups are made, you know, mostly by people that aren't even at the games, and they don't care what your record is. And so you're not developing to win, right? You're developing for a couple of guys, which is a strategy that I've heard since I got into baseball professionally. But it's something I've never agreed with. I've always thought that winning is part of developing. Okay? Now, I'm going to tell you why this Tony Vitello hire, to me, makes sense. The reason it makes sense is that I've been a play-by-play voice for a team in the SEC. Watched 2 straight seasons of games. If you don't win, you get fired. Like, it's the exact opposite of the minor leagues. You either win or you're out. That's how it is at the major league level. And Tony Vitello, who's going to the Giants as their manager, lived that world and was one of the best at it. Won a World Series. Winning a college World Series is about as tough as anything that you're going to do in collegiate sports. They're always in the mix. 4 first-round picks. And you guys are saying, well, what does it matter to us? The reason that it matters is because this could be a shift in a lot of things. Like, if this guy has no pro experience, he goes to the Giants, he has success, and everyone is going to look at that and go, well, the guys in college are actually managing the win. So we want those guys there because in the big leagues, you do the same thing. You don't do that in the minor leagues. It's so unfair to the minor league managers because, obviously you're hamstrung, right? But a lot of those guys may say, okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to college now. I'll manage in college, be a head coach in college. Then I don't have anybody telling me how to make my lineup. I get to pick my own roster, go out and recruit those guys. You get to a good school, you get good players, you win, and then maybe that's how the jump is. They've been doing this in college football forever. Think about this, because this is what popped into my mind was Jimmy Johnson. You guys remember Jimmy Johnson? Jimmy Johnson was the Miami Hurricanes football coach. And then he took the Dallas Cowboy job. He replaced Tom Landry. And I know some of you guys are going, who's Tom Landry? Oh, us old school folks know Tom Landry was a amazing Hall of Fame head coach for the Cowboys. He got fired. I mean, they got rid of him because he wasn't winning. They bring in Jimmy Johnson. And everybody's like, this Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy Johnson came in and he's like, we're going to do this, this, and this. Traded Herschel Walker, got a bunch of fast guys instead of big, slow guys. Dallas won 2 Super Bowls and then, won a third because he left. He didn't like the owner, and they haven't won since. And I know a lot of you Bears fans are like, yeah, I remember those Cowboy teams. They were pretty good. The bottom line is this. Tony Vitello is now the litmus test for what this job could be, managerial job. I thought it was so interesting that the Giants are making this move. Like the Giants, they're competing with the Dodgers. They aren't going to spend $2 billion on the roster like the Giants or like the Dodgers, but they weren't that far off last year. So we'll see what happens. I'm curious to see myself how Tony is going to figure this whole thing out, because it is a different world. And I've been in both worlds, been in college and been in pro ball. There's going to be some people that aren't going to be real happy that he got this job. He's going to have to deal with that. And if I was him, I'd probably bring some of my people with him. But I looked at it through this Cub scope and I'm going, okay, so we had David Ross, right? Guy never did anything other than play. And then we put him right into the managerial job. And I always felt like when he was the manager, I was like, you know what? I didn't like the way that he incorporated young players, but I liked him. And then we get Craig Counsell, and Cubs pay more money than anybody's ever paid for a manager. And I don't see that much of a difference between Craig Counsell and David Ross, to be honest with you. I think Craig's a little bit better at, bringing young players along. I think Craig's better at just understanding the entire way that the organization works and being involved in, the decisions that are made, all the way down the line on things that he's going to want when he gets to the big leagues, which I think is smart. But those guys had the exact same record back-to-back seasons. I just don't see any difference. You guys tell me, do you see a difference? I just don't. I think Rossi could be the manager of the Braves this year or some other team. And I think they'd get a good manager. But I just feel like it's kind of the same thing. Tony Vitello, we'll see what he ends up being in the big leagues. But this is an interesting hire, and I think it also goes back to what I was saying before, is the way that they've changed the structure of how things are laid out. And it was interesting to me. That's why I've talked about it so much. Now, 3 Cubs are Silver Slugger finalists. And one of them I feel like has a pretty, I don't want to say a great shot, but I think a pretty good shot to win the award. Now, let me start with this guy here, Nico Horner. Nico has been someone to me that when he was coming up through the minor leagues, he always played shortstop, but he just reminded me of Ryne Sandberg, and a morning show host in Chicago on the Score, like, just ripped me saying that I thought he reminded me of Ryne Sandberg. Not, I didn't say he was Ryne Sandberg, but just the way that his body was kind of built. You know, I heard a scout tell me the term stiff back, just, I don't even know if that it applies, but he said, well, Ryne Sandberg's the best stiff back guy. I just felt like both of those guys kind of moved the same way. And the other thing was that Nico hit a lot of line drives, barreled the ball up. And I thought, well, eventually they'll get him to hit those line drives into the stands like they did with Rhino. Now, that hasn't happened. But Nico came up there. I'm getting calls every day. This guy's talking bad about me on his show. And Nico's actually turned out to be a pretty damn good player. Not Ryne Sandberg, but he's won Gold Gloves. He was a contender for the batting title this year, and now he's a finalist for the Silver Slugger. And when people ask you your opinion, you give it to them, and you're not perfect. I mean, you just do it, and you just trust your instincts. And Nico has just gotten better and better, right? He had 297 on the year. He was, in the running for the batting title until the end. He ended up with 7 home runs, 29 doubles, 4 triples, 61 RBIs. Now, the home runs to me it really surprises me because he barrels the ball up, but he just doesn't have that. He just doesn't get a whole lot on it when he hits it, but he gets a lot of hits, right? The other thing I love about him is that his bat-to-ball skills are great, right? I remember talking with Sam Hughes, who was he was the national cross-checker for the Cubs when they were scouting Nico, and he felt like Nico was going to be a really good big leaguer. And I think that was one of the qualities in his game that he really liked. 7.6% strikeout rate. I mean, think about that. It's the best of his career. Not many strikeouts. And in this day and age where everybody strikes out, to have a guy that's not afraid to put the ball in play, to me is really impressive. So when you look at the finalists for this award, I feel like Nico's got a really good chance. He's going up against Arizona's Kendall Marte. Marte's had an interesting year. Remember, he was at the beginning of the season, somebody said something about his mom. I don't know if they really knew. I don't remember what it was or wasn't, but I know he started crying on the field. She died unexpectedly in a car wreck. I felt for him. I think we all did. Then his home got robbed while he was at the All-Star game, and he took some time off, and his teammates were reportedly angry at him over that. And, but he put up great numbers, and he's a finalist. And then Bryce Terang of the Brewers. I know I called him Bruce one time on one of our shows. You guys got after me. Look, I know it's Bryce Terang. I think Nico should win over those guys. Now, the other 2 are for outfield spots, and it's the guy that I call Hollywood Pete Crow Armstrong. I wonder if that's going to stir up anything in on the Score morning show. But look, I that's what I think of the guy. I think he just reminded me of a Hollywood type dude because he does so many amazing Hollywood type things. Plus, his parents are actors and everything else. That's why I came up with that name. And he looked like a Hollywood guy at the beginning of the season. I mean, what an amazing year the guy ended up with, right? You're talking about an MVP candidate at the beginning of the year and then, kind of fell off. But he ended up with 31 home runs, 37 doubles, 91 runs batted in. He's the first Cub ever to have 31 home runs or excuse me, 30 home runs, 30 doubles, and 30 stolen bases. I think he's going to win. I really do. He's up against Washington Nationals, Kyle Stowers. He's up against he's up against James Wood of the Nationals. Stowers is of the Marlins, and I don't know why Baltimore would have traded him. Corbin Carroll of the Diamondbacks, and then Juan Soto of the Mets, right? The other guy in the mix is Kyle Tucker. Tucker's not going to win, although I do appreciate what he brings to the table, right? And the problem with him is that he got hurt, and his numbers are good, but they're just not good enough when you compare him, right? 266. He did play 136 games, 22 home runs, 25 doubles, 4 triples, 73 runs batted in. He is one of the most selective baseball hitters in baseball. He's so great at taking pitches, but I just don't think he's got enough juice. I hope they both win, but I just think that that Pete's got the better chance at this one, going up against that group. But I like the Cubs' chances to win 1 or maybe 2 Silver Sluggers. I'd love a clean sweep. Don't get me wrong, but I just, after that hand injury, the fractured hand in early June, Tucker just kind of, wasn't the same guy after that. Now, I want to ask you guys to join our Avenue D. I already did that. There's the QR code, Mick Nation, Avenue D. Scan that. I'll give some hats away. And then I want to know what you guys think about this. Should the Cubs sign Andrew Kittredge? Yes or no? I think that they should. This guy grew on me as the time that he was with the Cubs kind of went on, right? And it was really the postseason, and I'm not saying he had a phenomenal postseason, but the guy was just ready to pitch every single day. And he was a trade deadline acquisition, got him from Baltimore. Is this a guy that the Cubs want to extend? They have the opportunity to do that. They got him 3.45 ERA, 32 strikeouts, 31 in the third innings with the Orioles. He comes to the Cubs. He's got a 3.32 ERA, 5 saves and 6 tries, 23 appearances in the regular season, right? He's a dude that just goes out there and pitches. And I saw him pitch every game in that Padres wild card series. So I'm like, here he is again, right? You want him to start as an opener? Yeah, I'll do that. You want me to close? Oh, I can do that too. Like, those kind of guys, those rubber arm guys, you just don't see many of those guys anymore. And he's certainly one of them. And I think that makes him, to me, really interesting, like a guy that you might want to, to keep around. Now, he had a 5.40 ERA in his 5 postseason outings. But, I just feel like at $9 million, what he brings, the fact that he pitches so much, he's a rubber arm guy. I don't know. I think you sign him. Now, I don't know if the Cubs are. I mean, you could maybe get a closer for that. But, I think after the success that they had last year, maybe you get a closer, put a little money into the bullpen. I mean, we see the bullpens a lot more now than we used to, right? Like the whole game seems to be predicated on how fast we can get the bullpen into the game. This is a guy that comes in and gives you good stuff, and the Cubs have that in their back pocket. It's going to be interesting. Are they going to re-sign Shota? I would. Colin Ray. If you don't bring back Colin Ray or Shota or this guy, I mean, you're going to have a lot of money, but how are you going to replace those guys? And are you going to take that money and go out and try to sign a guy like Dylan Cease? Are you going to make a trade for a Seth Lugo? I mean, I don't know. But you got pretty close this year. I don't think they're that far off, so, we'll find out. All right, guys, thank you for being here. Make sure that you please like and subscribe, share with your Cubs friends. Thank you for being here. Get in the Cubs comment section and talk every day about this team. And I love you guys so much for being part of the channel and talking about the Cubs every day. Do you think that guys like Tony Vitello are the future, Ryan Flaherty, or do you like Craig Counsell. Do you see a lot of difference between Craig Counsell and David Ross? I said they were kind of the same to me. What do you guys think? So tell me in the comments section. We will do it again. And I want to remind you, too, that as vacation time comes, right? It's you're thinking about getting away from Chicago, from Indiana, from Iowa, and you want to hit the mountains. Think about the Smoky Mountains. Amazing experience going to the Smoky Mountains. It's not that far. Sevierville is right there in the Smoky Mountains. Great places to hang out, cabins, the whole deal. And it's not that expensive either. I think that's the other thing. And look, we got a talking bass as part of our advertisement campaign. So that should make you want to sign up. Talk to you tomorrow. Go Cubs.
When you head to the Smoky Mountains, it's only natural to visit Sevierville.
Even we had to check it out.
And we've been here our whole lives.
Experience the adventure of a lifetime.
I'm king of the world.
Even you can get a bird's eye view of the Smokies.
You're going down, Billy. Whoa.
Your Smokies start here.